Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about reporting solutions, automating your reporting for Hyperion users and non-Hyperion users alike, and showing you ways to automate your Excel-based Smart View reporting using Smart View VBA functions. So let's get the slide started. My name is Jim Wilking. I'm a senior consultant at HCG. We're based out of Minneapolis. We're a leading provider of consulting for Oracle Hyperion products. Here are a few of the things that we are into as far as a consulting company. We're an Oracle certified gold partner. We specialize in Hyperion products, BI and EPM. We also do reporting solutions under those umbrellas. We are an Oracle approved education center in Minneapolis. We also are an Oracle approved education center in Phoenix. We offer live training, virtual training, and mentoring. On the development side, we do both BI and EPM consulting and development. We can provide health checks, we do free reporting assessments, and design custom applications. Just a quick note before we get started here, for those of you that are still on the Classic add-in, just to note that the spreadsheet add-in is maintenance mode as of January of this year. So new versions of Windows and Office will not be supported if you're still using the add-in going forward, and new features will only be added to Smart View. HCG offers a Smart View Conversion Accelerator package that helps companies make the transition from the add-in to Smart View. So that includes a Smart View conversion roadmap, best practices, live Smart View training, including the recorded sessions for review afterwards, and consulting and upgrade management. So let's get to the meat of the presentation today. How do you create reports for your non-Hyperion users? What I'm going to go through is 3 different analysts here. We'll chronicle exactly what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish using their Hyperion tools and what they're trying to do from a reporting perspective. First, we have John, just an associate analyst. Second, we have Suresh, a financial analyst, and Karen, a reporting analyst. It's important to note that all 3 of these analysts have the same basic end-user Hyperion access. They don't have special security rights as a developer, and they don't have access to the administration suite or any of the Hyperion development tools. Your answer should be automated Hyperion reporting. So you should be utilizing the power of built-in Smart View VBA functions. Just a note, if you have Smart View installed on your computer currently, you have the Smart View VBA functions as well. It's just a hidden feature that you need to set up, and I can show you how to do that. So what reporting typically exists for your non-Hyperion users? They can get email reports based on distribution list. You can print that out and deliver it to them at their desk. People can call you on the phone and ask for the numbers, or they just get left out altogether. So by using the Smart View VBA functions, you can hopefully get these reports in the hands of users that don't have Hyperion access. Really, what does that do if people are calling you all day? You're the little guy, and the big guys are your workload. So you really get crushed by a lot of requests if people can't help themselves. So using the Smart View VBA functions, you can help automate the tasks so that you have less work to do on the reporting front. So here are some of the reporting automation options. So you can develop a reporting template from which you generate all your reports and distribute to users. So that's kind of the distribution list example. You can develop a reporting template from which all your users make their own reports. So that's kind of the self-service model. Or you can develop a fully automated reporting model to generate your reports and distribute them to your users. Why is report automation important? Well, obviously, it reduces reporting errors, so it saves you from a lot of headaches chasing around trying to figure out why the numbers on the reports aren't accurate. It gives you a central validation model so that all the reports are coming from one central source, giving you more control. And template-driven reporting has a consistent look and feel. So if you're distributing reports to many users, all your reports look similar and have the same layout. And also, it saves you a lot of time. So if you're trying to reduce reports or produce reports using manual polls or updating numbers manually and then reproducing those every week or every month on your cycle, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And really, you can give that time back to your analysts so they can interpret the data rather than generating reports. And in the end, reducing errors and saving time saves you money. So Try to find a more efficient way to report, less time and effort from your analyst to actually do that, and that's why it's important. So how is it done? I've been talking Smart View VBA functions. How exactly does that work? You can customize a report using Excel, Excel macros, and Visual Basic for Applications, known as VBA. So I'm going to show you how the three analysts, John, Suresh, and Karen, utilize Excel, Excel macros, and VBA with the Smart VBA toolkit to do automation. What applications do the Smart View VBA functions work for? It's Hyperion Planning, SBase, and HFM. So all three applications in the EPM suite have Smart View VBA functions to utilize the Smart View tasks within that application. So let's take a look at our first analyst, and we'll do some live demos here. So this is John. Just a little background on John. He has 2 years of experience. He's new in role. He's new to Hyperion, so he hasn't used Hyperion in the past. He's familiar with Excel, and his main goal is to do department reporting. So what he wants to do is reduce the number of steps he needs to take each month in order to produce his reports. So how did he utilize Smart View VBA functions to design his report automation? Well, first use Excel to create a simple layout for a report and applied his required formatting based on the look and feel. And then he utilized the following Smart View VBA functions to automate. First, the Hyperion Connect, then the Retrieve Range, then the Set Global options, set the Sheet options, and to get the variable names. That's HS Get Variable Name is a function I'll show you. It's new in the version 11.121, Service Pack 102. So let's just take a look at a logical explanation of how this works together, and then we'll get into the actual model. So first, John provides report input through an Excel menu. Excel captures his input, and then a macro executes the logic to actually generate the report. So it looks something like this. The Excel menu on the left is just designed within Excel to select a month and a market. And when he clicks Run, the macro Smart View VBA functions execute to provide a report output on the right. So let's take a look and see how that works. So here's John's model. You can see in this particular case he's designed an interface or a simple menu within Excel to allow a user to select a month and then select a market. Now the first question you may be asking is, how is this set up? It's not a special functionality, it's not a special menu. This is simply Excel formatting. So he's colored the shade blue and put a border around it and then created some data validation boxes. For those of you not familiar with data validation boxes, that's Excel functionality. You go to the Data tab and click on the Data Validation control, and it allows you to select that you want to look at a list. And in this case, John has picked a named range called month list. So I'm just going to cancel out here. I'll show you what that looks like. Here, John has hard-coded in the months that he wishes to appear in the month drop-down box. And next to that are the markets that he wishes to appear in the markets drop-down box. So in this case, these are hard-coded. So just keep in mind that there will be some maintenance involved if you add new markets. And then he's in that view so that he has a nice clean menu interface. Now on the other side, at the bottom here, there's a tab called Sales and Margin Report. This is the report that John has set up in Excel. So this is completely set up in Excel. I'm just going to open up the groups here. You can see these particular boxes are all just hard-coded numbers that look back. In this case, the market looks back to whatever is selected on the menu, and then the month as well. You can see here, this is the HS Get variable. So if you're familiar with SBase or the EAS environment, the administrators of your Hyperion system have the ability to set variables for various different properties within SBase or Hyperion. And in this case, John is using the current year variable to pull in the current fiscal year. So in this case, the variable cur year is the fiscal year that the administrator has set up in the system. That way, John never has to go and update the fiscal year for his report. He relies on the function HS Get variable and then calls the name of the substitution variable in Hyperion. And that automatically pulls in the fiscal year. You can see that now that I've clicked on the cell, it says need to refresh. So as soon as you refresh or do a retrieve, this will retrieve that list. The other thing to note, and this is something that you can't normally do within Smart View, is I have multiple grids. Now, normally if you were to try to refresh this page, you would get an error because you can't have multiple grids on the same page. In this case, John is using a function called HyperRetrieveRange, which allows him through the Smart View VBA functions to retrieve multiple ranges on the sheet. So let's get into this right now. Now that you've seen kind of the blank sheet, let's see what it looks like when John actually executes the model. So I'm going to go ahead and pick out a particular market, in this case East, and click the Run button. You can see once I've clicked the Run button, the Smart View VBA and macros are executed to refresh the report and populate the details. You can see that happens for month, for quarter to date, and also for year to date. And if I just open up and show you the function again, FY 2013 has been refreshed by the function hsGetVariable. So now that you've seen how it works, let's actually dig into some of the details here to show you what the code looks like. I'm going to go to the VBA editor screen and show you exactly what's happening behind the scenes. So module 1 is where the VBA is contained. You can see once the button refresh is clicked, this particular macro is executed. So I'm just going to step through and I'll show you exactly how that looks. So when the button refresh is clicked on the Run button, that executes this macro. And the following things happen in order. It calls the connect, and this is the function that shows you how to connect to Essbase. So this is hypeconnect, the sheet name you're connecting, the username, the password, and the connection that you're connecting to within the Hyperion environment. In this case, I'm connecting to an Essbase cube with a private connection. It has to be a private connection named sample_basic. The return code, if it's successful, it connects, and I'll go over that in a minute. And then the next thing that happens is some options get set. So I'm using the Smart View VBA function hype_set_global_options. In this case, option number 1 is the option to enable Excel formatting, since in this case, John has decided he has formatted Excel reporting exactly how he likes. He doesn't want the Hyperion Smart View to overtake his formatting. So he's setting to enable Excel formatting. Next, he's setting the pound missing label for instances when there is no data in the intersection to show a dash on his report. The next thing that happens in the macro is it refreshes the report. So here's where the refresh or the data actually gets populated. So as I mentioned earlier, the HyperRetrieveRange function allows you to retrieve just a certain set defined within your spreadsheet. So this is how you're able to retrieve multiple grids on the same spreadsheet without causing an error. So you can see there's a named range, in this case refresh month, then refresh quarter to date, and refresh year to date. Each are refreshed independently, and they aren't causing any errors on that sheet. So refresh, 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 and then it's done, and you have a report that's fully functional. So you can see, I'll just show you the named ranges here. The way that this is broken out, you have a refresh month, which is only doing the top section. That's a named range. A refresh quarter to date, which is only doing the middle section. And then refresh year to date, which is refreshing the bottom section. So that's how the 3 ranges, which are independent retrieves from Hyperion, are taking place through the Smart View VBA functions. So that's John's model. Let's just flip back and we'll go back to the slides here. One thing that you might be asking before I go back to the slides is, how do I actually get the Smart View VBA functions set up? They are already installed on your computer, but you have to initialize them in order to access these functions that I've been discussing, like hypeconnect. You can see here I have a module called Smart View Functions. Here's where all the functions are declared. And the question is, how do I get these set up on my computer? So in this case, you would right-click on Module, and you would import a file. Then you need to navigate to your Oracle Smart View bin directory. In this case, it's on the C drive Oracle Smart View bin folder. And there's a file called Smart View Base. I would open that, and that would import the Smart View Functions file. Once you have the Smart View Functions set up, you'll see a list of functions like this. And if I look for one of the functions that I've been using, you can see that it's defined within this spreadsheet. Here are the different things that are declared in order for that function to work, and so that this particular API calls your Hyperion tools and accesses the code behind them. Once you've added this, there's no further action needed. You can immediately start using these functions as described. So that was John's demo on how to add the Smart View base file so that you can access all these Smart View VBA functions. What about troubleshooting your Smart View VBA errors? So you saw some interesting things like equals, x equals hype connect. How do I actually determine if my Smart View VBA functions are working, or if I get an error, how do I troubleshoot that? Smart View VBA functions, all of them, return a value that indicates whether they were successful or not. If you get a negative value, that means there's a client issue. So that means there's something with your connection to the network, your computer, Excel, or maybe one of the variables within your Hyperion functions. If you get a positive number back, that means that it's a server issue. So either your application server or your cube or your Hyperion application is unavailable. If a return code of 0 is shown, that means that your function is successful. There is a table of all these functions listed in Smart View Help under Contents VBA Functions. So let me just show you that real quick. So if you go to Smart View and you go to Help, Contents, within the contents there's a list of various things here. Let it populate. There we go, Contents. Under VBA Functions, there's quite a bit of data here. You see the different return values are listed as a table in the VBA section of Help. As I mentioned, 0 is successful. All the other errors give you the common issues or a brief description about what's going on should you get that error. Let's take a look at another example. Now that you have the basics of what's going on behind the scenes, let's take a look at Suresh. So Suresh is a financial analyst. He has 5 years of experience. He's new in his role, but he has Hyperion experience. He's a pretty savvy Excel user, knows a little bit about VBA. His main responsibilities are validating and sending out reports to all his non-Hyperion users. So maybe that's execs, maybe that's people in the field. It's just people that don't have Hyperion accounts that still need data that comes out of Hyperion. So his goal is to reduce his workload during month end so he can get back to doing other things in his job. How did Suresh utilize Smart View VBA functions? Now remember, John used the hype connect. He also used retrieve range and set options. Suresh has also incorporated a couple additional new features or new functions. He's using the hype disconnect, which allows him to disconnect a Hyperion session. He's also using the function called hype query members. So in this case, he's using it to populate the drop-down boxes. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Now remember, John had hard-coded in his months and market. Suresh has come up with a way to actually dynamically populate his markets based on whatever is currently in his Hyperion outline. And he's doing that by using the hype query members function. So let's take a look and see how that works. So as you can see, Suresh's model looks very similar to John's model. The report output does look pretty much similar to the way John was reporting. The real functionality here is the drop-down boxes, whereas John was using a data validation box, which is simple Excel functionality. So Suresh is using Smart View VBA functions and the developer tools in VBA Excel to actually create populated drop-down boxes. So you can see the list looks pretty similar to John's list. However, Suresh has set up his model to query directly the market dimension in the Hyperion outline, in this case SBase. So every time the SBase outline populates, Suresh gets the new market members. That's a great reduction in maintenance for his model. He no longer has to worry about new markets coming on. He just clicks the market drop-down list, and the outline automatically refreshes any markets that are in his list. So let's take a look and see how that works. So before we were looking at John's model, we were looking at the Module 1. So let's take a look at Suresh's model. It looks very similar in Module 1. The drop-down functionality, however, is in a different section. It's covered in the actual sheet of the workbook. So let's take a look at that functionality. So you can see there's several different functions here, and I'm going to focus on the market function. This event market drop-down click means that every time that a user or Suresh clicks on the drop-down box, the code within this section is executed. So in that case, when he clicks the drop-down list, what's happening is he's connecting to SBase. and he's utilizing the Smart View VBA function called Hype Query Members. In this case, he's querying a dimension called market, and he's saying, give me all the markets in the market dimension, and then store it in this particular variable. So I know it sounds a little complicated, but basically the Hype Query Members function, as set up here, is querying a specific dimension within Essbase, in this case market, and it's storing the results in this list called ARR market. Then it does some error checking to make sure that that actually worked, and then it populates the drop-down list. So this code right here is actually populating the drop-down list. So the market list, this particular drop-down function, is populating with whatever is returned from the Hyperion outline in the market dimension. So let's go ahead and execute a report. He's also hooked up the year box and the box to the Hyperion outline, so anytime a new fiscal year is added, Suresh has to do no maintenance. He's able to automatically just pick a new fiscal year from the list and refresh his report. So let's go ahead and refresh a report for the central market for 2013. There you can see the output looks pretty similar to John's output. However, Suresh's output Suresh's model has much less maintenance. He doesn't have to populate fiscal years. He doesn't need to update any of his markets. That's all automatically populating, and you can see it comes out in a nice preformed report. Now, I'm sure the question that you're asking is, how do I actually get the drop-down box set up? Whereas before we were using a data validation box, which is Excel functionality. How do I actually set up a drop-down box? You need to go to the Developer tab across the top. If you don't have the Developer tab, sometimes certain companies don't have the Developer tab accessible right off the bat. You can actually activate the Developer tab by going to Excel Options and just checking the box for Developer tab. There's a checkbox under Popular, Show Developer tab in the ribbon. So if you don't have that Developer tab listed, that's how you activate it. Once on the Developer tab, go to the Insert and just choose a drop-down box. So I'll click the drop-down box under ActiveX Controls, and you simply draw it on screen. So I'll just draw an example here. So now I've created a new drop-down box. So Suresh has created 3 different drop-down boxes and connected it to the Smart View VBA function to query directly the outline. So let's take a look at a little more functionality here. So Suresh's goal was not only to produce reports from an automation standpoint, but also to distribute them to users that are non-Hyperion users. So really his goal is to set it out to a network drive, or in your case maybe it's a SharePoint drive. Once he generates a report, he would like to save that to a particular network drive for the month that he's producing reports for. So let's take a look and see how that works from a saving perspective. So again, this is just a regular model, produces a report, but how do we take it a step further and actually generate a report and save it to a directory? So let's take a look at Suresh's model plus saving functionality. So again, the saving functionality, just as a point of reference, saving functionality has nothing to do with the Smart View VBA functions. It's just additional VBA that you need to add to your model in order to save it out. So in this case, Suresh has created a model. In this case, he's doing, let's say we're doing March reporting now. He's going to run a report for the Wisconsin market. So he's generated a report. Again, you can see the output here, but also note that as part of this model, he saved it off to a directory. So let's take a look at the output of this particular report run. So if we go out to Suresh's reports, FY13, and again we're running it for March, you can see the report he just ran, executed, and now he has a perfect Wisconsin hard copy, so to speak, or soft copy report that only shows Wisconsin. So this is ideal for situations where you have non-Hyperion users, maybe people in the field, sales folks that don't have Hyperion access, maybe an exec or managers outside of finance that don't necessarily have Hyperion experience or need to be trained before they can use it. This is a quick and effective way to generate reports that you can then distribute either through email blast, network drive, SharePoint. In this case, he set it up to all automatically execute and dump it into a specific month folder based on fiscal year. So that's one of the ways that you can utilize Smart View in combination with VBA and Excel functionality to generate reports, get them out to a useful output, and then distribute them to your users. Let's take a look at another example. This time we're talking about Karen's example. Karen has 3 years of experience in reporting roles, so she's really a reporting analyst. She is a very experienced Hyperion, very experienced Excel and VBA. She's responsible for creating and distributing reporting, so kind of like Suresh, but more in a full-time capacity. And her goal is really to automate the monthly reporting. So how did Karen utilize Smart View VBA functions? She designed a reporting template, and templates underlined for a specific reason. Templates act in a slightly different way than regular Excel macro-enabled templates or macro-enabled files or XLS files. She created a menu with drop-down boxes similar to what Suresh had been doing. She applied the formatting within Excel to get the exact look and feel she was looking for. And then she developed some logic to dynamically populate the product numbers. So far in John's model and Suresh's model, the products in the report are hard-coded. So that's one of the maintenance points for those first 2 examples. In Karen's case, she has developed logic to actually dynamically populate those product members, so she has decreased her maintenance down to almost 0. So you can see the functions are pretty much the same as John and Suresh: connect, retrieve, range, set the options, disconnect, and hype query members. But Karen has utilized the hype query members to populate members in both drop-down boxes and to identify the children of the selected members so that she can dynamically populate the products. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment here. So again, the menu looks pretty similar to what Suresh had been doing, and pretty close to what John was doing as well. In this case, she's selecting a fiscal year, a month, a market, and in this case, this is the new thing, a product. So not only is she selecting a market and then automatically populating a report, she's also selecting the products. So in this case, whatever product number she selects, it gives a report that shows that product and all the children of that product. So it's a nice, efficient way to populate a report without having to know how many children there are in a given number. So let's take a look and see what this model looks like. So again, the menu is pretty similar. So again, this is nothing fancy. It's just a regular formatting in Excel, blue background, white background, some text. The drop-down boxes were inserted from the Developer tab. Insert, draw on the boxes. The boxes are then connected through events in VBA to the Smart View VBA function hype query members. So this is directly querying the fiscal year dimension in S-space, the month dimension or period dimension in S-space, the market dimension, and the product dimension. Now this is ideal because really Karen has reduced her maintenance to almost nothing. So in the past 2 models, products were hard-coded, so they always had to type in new products. Suresh went ahead and made a little more automation and said, I'm going to automatically get all my markets populated, no problem, right from S-space. In this case, Karen has also said, I'm going to automatically get all the products from Sample Basic directly from S-space or from the Hyperion outline. So in the case of your company adds more products, more markets, Karen is completely covered. So as soon as a new product is added, it will then be available in this drop-down list because every time you click the box, it queries the S-space or Hyperion outline directly, and you get all the new product members. This is a huge gain in efficiency. You have a lot less maintenance, and now you have to focus on just generating reports and then doing your analysis. So again, let's take a look at the Report tab, because this is a little bit different than what John and Suresh have been doing. You can see there's no hard-coded product members like there was in John and Suresh's model. Other than that, it looks pretty much similar. So you have the monthly report, the quarterly section, and the year-to-date section, with the added benefit of logic that populates all the different product members based on whatever the user has selected here. Let's take a look and see how that works. So I'm going to pick the West region or market, and then I'll pick the diet product, and I'm going to click refresh. You can see the report automatically populates the 3 children plus the parent of diet drinks, and now you have 3 sections that are dynamically populated without having to do any maintenance on this report page. So let's take a look. I'm just going to run it again. I'm just going to not save that. Take a look at Karen's template. So again, you can see the extension here is XLTM. Previously, we were just using macro-enabled workbooks. The XLTM is something special, which means that it only opens in read-only. And this is crucial for templates or models that you don't want the data to be overwritten and saved over your existing starting point. A template ensures that it opens in read-only and that you won't be able to save over the top of the template very easily. You can see at the top here, it's labeled as template 1. That means this template's not the original file that we opened, but a copy of that file. and you can see that the starting point always remains the same. And this is a crucial component for this particular model because you don't know how many rows are going to be populated at any given time. So let's go ahead and pick a different product. Let's go ahead and pick total product and hit refresh. You can see before we had the diet product and there are only 3 children. Well, the total product has 5 children, and you can see that the logic that Karen has used utilizing the Smart View Functions Hype query members has determined how many rows to insert and how many children there are so that each section comes out appropriately based on the number of children and that there's appropriate spacing and that the different retrieves don't overwrite each other. So it's kind of interesting, and it's a great way to kind of effectively reduce all of your maintenance by utilizing the combination of VBA with the Smart View VBA functions to really have a nice look and feel and generate reports for various different amounts of members based on your outline. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this one out. Let's take a look at one more thing here. So that was Karen's model, and basically that's the dynamically populating all the product members. So there's 0 maintenance from this perspective. Let's take a look at another one of Karen's models. Now this is butterfly reports. So butterfly reporting, as you can see in the diagram here, is kind of a central section with report data both off to the right and the left of the members. Now in prior versions of Smart View and Excel add-ins, it was very difficult to put a report together like this. It actually wouldn't allow you to do anything unless you left justified your members or did some complicated lookups across the products. So in this case, on the left-hand side, Karen has monthly reporting, and on the right-hand side, quarter-to-date reporting. So this allows the analyst to look at how they did this month versus how they're doing so far this quarter. And the reason that's butterfly is because you have the account dimension, or account members in this case, down the middle. So let's take a look and see kind of how that looks. So you can see the familiar menu that we've been looking at so far, just done right within Excel, and then developer tools, insert and draw some drop-down boxes. Again, the products and markets are being populated dynamically by just selecting the drop-down list, and then it's querying the Hyperion outlet directly. Let's pick total product. Let's take a look at the actual report here. You can see it's blank now. Hidden beneath there are the S-based members. One thing to note here is that the variable is being used for current year. So this is another way to do to access substitution variables from your Hyperion environment that your admins are setting up without having to hard code in a fiscal year. So let's go ahead and run the report. So you can see here's a total product report for the East market. Again, your month-to-date value, or your monthly values and your quarter-to-date values, and your account product or your account members down the middle. So this is a new functionality in 11.121 that you may not have seen. It's a pretty useful way to present data. In addition, she has also incorporated in this particular model the ability to save those reports off. So in this case, in Karen's butterflies report, she now has a report for the East total product market. So if we go ahead and run another report here, we want to do a report for New York. So if we go over to her reports, you now have a New York total product report. So again, this is incorporating Smart View VBA functions with Excel functionality and using VBA to do some of the kind of heavy lifting from saving reports off. So this is a great way to incorporate the automation from Smart View VBA and also Excel functionality to save reports off to a directory, to SharePoint, or just to save them out to a local directory so you can blast those out through an email distribution list. So really that's what you're looking for when you're trying to produce reports for non-Hyperion users. Again, keeping in mind that if you have utilities like financial reports or web analysis that users already have access to, you might want to take a look at using that. But if you don't have financial reports and you need to get these reports off to non-Hyperion users, this Smart View VBA functionality is already built into your Smart View installation. It's just a matter of utilizing that within your environment. All right. So that's Karen's report. So let's kind of do a review of what we've seen so far. So we looked at the basic model first. That's John. he did retrieving automation. So the advantage is there that it's a pretty quick development cycle. You really don't have to know much other than a couple of VBA functions, and then the rest of it's done within Excel. He designed it to meet his personal needs, so he didn't have to worry about enterprise-wide or anything like that. Some of the disadvantages for the basic model is that there's maintenance for both his drop-down boxes because he hard-coded those in Excel, and also on the products report page, so he's hard-coded in his products as well. So that's really a way that it's a quick development cycle, but you have some maintenance to keep on top of. So maybe that's best for personal use or short cycle reporting. The next example we looked at was Suresh, and that's more of an intermediate example. He came up with menu automation. So whereas John had hard-coded in his markets, Suresh developed a way using the Hype query members to populate the drop-down box directly from his Hyperion environment. So as soon as markets are updated by the administrator in Hyperion, those markets would show up in Suresh's model. So he's really reduced the amount of maintenance he has to do without really increasing the amount of development he needs to do for his model. So still a quick development cycle, but now he has no market maintenance. The disadvantages, again, similar to John's, on the report page, he had hard-coded product members. So if any of the products were changed or added, he would need to go in there and modify his model to represent the new products. The third example is the advanced example. So that was Karen's example, the one we looked at last. She was doing dynamic report automation. So the advantage there is that it's really flexible because it doesn't matter how many children a particular product has. She's developed the logic to use the Smart View VBA functions in conjunction with VBA logic to populate the appropriate number of rows on her report. It meets multiple users' needs. There is zero drop-down box maintenance for both products and market. The only downside to this is that she has specialized knowledge of VBA. So one of the things to note is that if you're not a strong VBA user and somebody else is, they produce reports that might be a little more complicated to maintain in the long run. So there is one spot of concern there for that. Let's talk a little bit about the HCG reporting solution. So we've talked about some of the examples here from a Smart View VBA perspective. What does it really buy you? It improves insight. You get a lot more consistency. Like I said, we've looked at these templates that are pretty similar across the board. That way you're distributing reports to all these various markets with all these various products that have the similar look and feel. It really automates any manual work. So in the past, maybe you're copying and pasting members or looking up members and pasting them in. This really streamlines that activity and automates all that. It reduces reporting errors. So really, by combining automation with Smart View VBA as well as leveraging the existing hierarchies in Hyperion, you really have a combined tool set that gives you a lot more comfort in knowing that things have came out correctly. And again, you save time and money. If you're reporting manually by cutting and pasting or merging files or doing lookups, you're really wasting a lot of time and probably getting yourself into a situation where you're having to do a lot of troubleshooting should something change in your setup. By doing this automation, you're really saving a lot of time and money. So let's tie it all together. So far we've talked about report templates one at a time. What do we want to do is get all those templates into one application and run automation against any template we'd like and iterate across all products, all dimensions as we feel needed, and then get the report output into a network drive out on a SharePoint, maybe to a local drive so we can attach it to an email blast. Let's take a look at a demo that kind of does all of that together. So kind of putting it all together, tying it all together. I'm going to go ahead and close these out. So let's take a look at something called the HCG Rapid Report Generator. So basically, in the past, we were opening one template at a time and saying, okay, we want to run this template. Putting it all together, let's add all the templates into one particular model so we don't have to go into various models. We can just select templates as we feel needed, and then also select where we want the output to go. So in this case, if I run the sales and margin template, I want it to go to the sales and margin folder. So let's go ahead and run one. Let's pick a particular month here. Go with March. Let's do a total product for the East market here. Kind of see what that looks like. I'm going to expect the output to go to the sales and margin reports folder. I'm just going to delete the ones that are already in there. Let's go ahead and run some reports here. So you can see once I've clicked Run Reports, a status window comes up, and it's now generating 25 reports based on the market that you selected and the product that you selected. It's running through each market one at a time and saving off a copy of the report as a hard copy, or a soft copy in this case, one for each of the markets. So in this case, there's going to be, or each of the products, in this case, there's going to be 25 reports. So there you go. I'm going to click OK. It'll bring you back to the menu interface. In this case, for March, at the total product, for the East market, we've generated 25 reports. So let's take a look and see what those reports look like. So here's the report output. You can see it took less than a minute to produce all 25 reports. So let's take a look at Florida. You can see, similar to what we've seen with John, Suresh, and Karen, the look and feel is pretty similar. But in this case, it was generated automatically based on your selections using the selection or template of your choice. So let's go ahead and select another one here. Let's go with variance template. Maybe you want to also run the variance template for the same exact product and market. And then I'm just going to go ahead and save it off to the variance reports folder. And then go ahead and run that report as well. You can see, once again, the same number of reports, but now we're running it against a different template. So a different report altogether, in this case the variance template. We'll let that populate those reports. Again, we just produced the first 25 sales and margin reports in less than a minute. Now we decided to also run the variance report against that same intersection, and another 25 reports are being produced. And I say, less than a minute, 45 seconds maybe. And there you go, 25 more reports are produced. So again, you can have as many templates as you want, and you can click through all the different templates. Let's take a look at that report output for the variance report. Again, it looks pretty similar, but now we're looking at all the different variances between month, quarter, and year to date. So this is a really, tying it all together, a way to put all of the different functionality that we talked about today into one model. So in this case, we have 5 different templates. We have drop-down boxes to decide where the report output goes. Again, this could be a network drive. This could be a local drive on your hard drive, or maybe even a SharePoint network drive where you can produce it directly to your SharePoint site. It allows you to pick your period, what product you want to report on, and what market you want to report on. And then it automatically populates these reports just by clicking a button. So this is really tying it all together. You have multiple templates utilizing Smart View VBA functions like hide query members, connect, retrieve, range, things like that, and also saving it out to a network drive. And not only for one template, but you have the ability to select multiple templates, as many as you can design. So that's really a quick way, if you're trying to produce reports for non-Hyperion users and you don't have a functionality about financial reports in your current environment, to actually produce reports quickly, accurately, and get them out to your users so that they can utilize that and do analysis. So if you're interested in more, if you want to learn more about what we've talked about today, or if you want training in general, we have a Smart View Report Automation Basics class. So kind of the things we've talked about today, get your feet wet, get you interested. If you haven't done a lot of VBA training or work in the past, and you'd like to get up to speed about what's going on, maybe some of the things we looked at today were interesting and you want to get learning more about that, we have a 2.5-hour class called Smart View Report Automation Basics, which is a good intro class to get your feet wet and kind of get involved in this. If you've done some of this in the past, or if you're familiar with Excel or you're a pretty savvy user, or if you want to get into this more in depth, we have a 2-day class, Smart View VBA Functions, so exactly what we're talking about today. So if you had any questions about how these models were created, other than what I've showed you, a Smart View VBA Functions 2-day class is a great way to learn exactly how all this is created and apply that to your own environment. We also have custom curriculum designed to meet your needs, so if you have specific questions or if you want to learn about specific subsets of these topics, we can definitely design a class for you like that as well. We do have a free reporting assessment too, so if you're listening today and you'd like to come out and just take a look, if you're interested in not only Smart View VBA, but maybe you're looking at OBI, web analysis, financial reports, you're just having a question about how your environment's set up and what would be best or what's coming down the pike, definitely let us know. We can come out and do a free reporting assessment. If you have any questions, just contact me. So here's my contact details. I'm going to leave these up for you. If you have any questions, there's my email address. I'm Jim Wilking. If you want to get these slides or if you want to check out some of these demo workbooks, send me an email or connect with me via LinkedIn. We can chat about Hyperion if you would like. Here's our HTG contact info as well. There's our phone number to our main office, our website, harbinger-group.com. You can find us on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of me, and we can chat about Hyperion. So nothing more excites me than to talk about Hyperion and reporting. So I thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned something through this webinar, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks.